Good morning. I'd like to call to order the Will County Land Use and Development meeting. And Board Member Joe Van Dyne, would you lead us in the Pledge of
I
Allegiance?
would love to.
Thank you. Pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Thank you, Joe. And I'd like a motion to approve the minutes for the Will County Land Use and Development meeting on July 9th, 2024. Oh, can I have a roll call first, Dawn?
And
Thank you.
Frankie Pretzel, absent. Julie Berkowitz,
Here.
Katie Dean Schlattman, absent. Raquel Mitchell, Sherry Newquist, and Joe Van Dyne,
Thank
or
you.
present.
Thank you, Dawn. Oh, okay, approval of minutes for the Land Use and Development Committee meeting, July 9th.
So moved, Van Dyne.
Second, Newquist.
All in favor? Thank you. And then approval of the minutes for the committee meeting on June 11th, 2024.
First, Newquist.
Second, Berkowitz.
Previous. You'll have to do previous roll.
Can we do a previous roll?
Previous roll, Van Dyne.
Second, Mitchell.
Okay, thank you. Oh, new business. A lot of reading here. Ordinance amending the Will County, Illinois zoning ordinance adopted and approved September 9th, 1947 as amended for zoning case ZC 24-034, Aran Holdings LLC, owner of record, Vitis Aronakis, 25% interest, Justina Aronakis, 25% interest, Gaitis Aronakis, 25% interest, and Jurgita Anaskis, 25% interest. Michael R. Martin of Dunn, Miller and Martin Limited Agent requesting S-24-046 special use permit for an outdoor storage yard, PIN number 12-36-300-001-0000 in DuPage Township, commonly known as 13141 South High Road, Lockport, Illinois, County Board, District 9, and I so move.
Second, Mitchell.
All in favor? Do we have any discussion regarding this item?
So this case was before the land use last meeting in July. It went to county board on July 18th. The attorney requested to remand the case back to land use, so it is being heard again today. At the original planning and zoning meeting on July 2nd, the board voted to approve the special use permit with 8 conditions with a vote of 3 to 4, thereby denying the request. At the land use meeting last month, commission voted to approve the special use permit with the vote of 3 to 3, thereby denying it, and at the county board, it was remanded, so it's being heard again. I know the attorney is here and he does have a presentation as well, and I'm happy to answer any questions.
Thank you, Ashlyn. Would you announce your name at the podium, please?
Okay. Michael R. Martin from Dunn, Martin and Miller on behalf of the applicant, Aaron Holdings. And then I don't know, Ashlyn, if you could pull up our presentation. I've also printed out and emailed the Land Commission our copy of our presentation. I do want to start off by saying thank you for allowing us to come back here. What we're trying to do here today is I know we had some concerned residents and some questions from the board that we've attempted to answer, and that's the hope of this presentation. You're also going to hear from one of the owners of Aaron Holdings, just a little bit about the property. We thank you for your consideration. If you can just go to the next slide. Obviously, our request is for a special use for outdoor storage yard with the intended purpose parking of RVs, boats, and other comparable and permitted uses as stated. We are not seeking truck parking. We are not seeking truck and trailer parking. That is actually a condition that will be incorporated into the special use. And then I think it's also very important to note, this property has an A1 zoning. We're not seeking to amend that low intense zoning classification. We're seeking to keep the A1 zoning. While we are asking for the special use to be transferable, we are not coming in with a blanket request for an I2 property or an I1 property, a more intense zoning. Any type of zoning change would require future map amendments, and that's not what we're doing here. Just some additional facts that I think have kind of been missed, and I would apologize on behalf of my client for not maybe explaining these so well. Number one, they are intending to hire a management company to manage the parking lot with contact information posted on the interior signs, as well be included in a license agreement. Secondly, any user client would have to sign a license agreement. I know there's been a lot of concerns about flow of traffic leaving the property due to weight limit restrictions to the south and due to the height limit restrictions due to the pipe overhang as part of the Exxon plant. Those will all be incorporated into our license agreement. And they're also incorporated in that license agreement are the maintenance restrictions that have been added to the special use. We have no objection to the no maintenance on the property. Again, though, one other point to make, while we are requesting the special use for 24 hours, we don't intend this lot to be open for 24 hours. If the need develops, we will apply for the appropriate lighting permits and approvals. But as of now, the intention is to keep the lot open dusk to dawn, I guess it's 6 to 6 p.m., maybe a little later in the summers, but it will not be open after dark at this time. It's going to be open during daylight hours. If in the future we do intend to, if they do seek to put lights in, we'd have to comply with the lighting ordinances of the county and so forth. And then I just want to remind the board, any variations from the requirements in the special use, if we violate those, that causes the county or gives the county the ability to revoke our special use. This property, though, it's going to be marketed towards single-family residence owners. We've had our real estate agent, Mr. Garland, put together within our side. If you can go to the next slide, Ashlyn, sorry. Talking about the growth in the area. The number of 1,660 units under current construction or planning, that pertains to Lockport only. We believe there is sufficient residences within the area, single-family homes, subdivisions in which these owners have gone out and bought RVs, have gone out and purchased boats, and have nowhere to park them. So these are just some, of course, if you have more questions, we have our entire team here today. I'm not going to get into the nuts and details of all these facts. I know it's not included in our report, but we have reviewed, there's Yard Matrix does a national RV boat and storage report, their spring report, the Chicago market, it's indicated as no new projects in the development. Granted, it was from the spring. I know there was one similar like project down the road. But it also has a low supply as it is. It's caused rents on these types of properties to increase. But I think the biggest thing is there's only about 70 acres in the Chicagoland area dedicated specifically for RV and boat storage. And that's what we're intending to create here. Go to the next slide. And then this slide just talks about the rising home values within the area. If you can go to the next slide. Looking at it though, with the anticipated increase in population, rising home values, we do think this is a need. Our real estate agent, if necessary, is able to, it's his opinion that this represents a highest and best use of the property as a recreational storage facility based mainly in part on its location next to or in the close proximity to the Exxon plant, the Citgo refinery. I don't believe you're going to get single-family residences built here. The property does have some drainage concerns, so it's probably not prime farming property. We haven't done full soil reports, but as far as a development piece, this property makes sense to put this in this location. If you can go to the next slide. I know there's been a lot of comments saying that we've done grading work in the past. I've attached two aerials. The one from 2023 is after we purchased it, but before the home and trees were removed. The second one is from 2024, after the home, the former residence and the trees were removed on pursuant to county permits and so forth. I know there's been a lot of claims that there was a pond in the area or in the middle of the property. And if you can go to the next slide, Ashlyn. So it's difficult to see, but we had the property surveyed. In the middle of the area, there is a depressed area. At times it would fill with water. Water drains slowly through it. But you have to remember currently the Exxon discharge pipe, it's a 10-inch pipe. It's opened. It just drains directly into our property. The water moves essentially kind of southwest through our property as it drains. Our plans, which will comply with the stormwater ordinances of the county, is to bury the Exxon pipe and bring it to our detention pond. The pond is going to be approximately 3 acres. It's going to have a capacity of 8.65 acres to feet, and we're anticipating to be able to hold 2.8 million gallons of water. An additional aspect or additional part of our improvement then is we are going to create a 7.56-inch discharge pipe from our property, draining it to the current ditch floodway or water management system that is to the south of us. So essentially we're accepting water from a 10-inch pipe and building a smaller pipe, holding the water, slowing the rate as it travels south down through the property. I know the neighbors to the south have concerns about our drainage. We believe this adequately addresses it. Staff has reviewed this as part of our site development permit. Anything built in regards to drainage will be built in accordance with the county codes and in accordance with our site development permit. But the nut of it is that we are accepting more water, slowing the rate and discharging less. It's not a straight run through. I know we've been here before and talked about how the surface area will be asphalt grinding. So we believe that also helps because it is not a true impervious surface and that water will be incorporated into the asphalt grindings. If you go to the next slide. And I think there's been a lot of confusion about South High Road. It is a designated FAU minor collector, meaning that it's intended to serve areas and lower density of residential, commercial, industrial. It's intended to essentially connect a major arterial or two local roadways. Their characteristics include they're typically less than 3/4 of a mile, which I think South High Road is probably about a mile because it connects 127th to 135th. They have speed limits of 25 to 35 miles per hour, and they're similar in appearance to local roadways. They just have less signalized intersections. If you can go to the next slide. Looking at this, the current traffic counts on South High Road, they are 600 vehicles to the north, which is essentially the Exxon plant, which is directly north of our property. Directly in front of our property, the current numbers from IDOT are 175 vehicles. We've put in two different numbers there. We anticipate at peak seasons, meaning start of spring, start of summer, end of summer, most boat owners, when they take a boat out, they take it out for the summer. So we don't anticipate someone taking a boat out on a daily basis, although there may be unusual circumstances. We don't anticipate someone taking their RV in and out daily, but we anticipate during our peak times, at most 80 vehicles entering and leaving the site. If you look at the IT trip generation, they indicate for similar like parking lot or storage yard with a capacity of 607 spots, which our spots right now we're around 600. Obviously that number will be finalized as part of site development. They anticipate 109 vehicles on a daily trip with about 9 to 12 during high peak times. Therefore, if you look at it though, South High Road has an overall capacity of 6,000 vehicles as part of its designation as a minor collector. Regardless of even if you took the higher number, we're still the estimated traffic is no more than 2 to 3% of the total capacity of South High Road. We do understand there are weight limit restrictions. We understand there are height limit restrictions traveling north. And again, we are incorporating those into our license agreement to let any potential customer know that if you have a boat or an RV that is more than 13.3, which is the height limits in height, you can't travel northbound underneath the Exxon pipe that runs over the roadway. And if that vehicle is more than 5 tons or you're carrying more than 5 tons, this is not the site for you. If you can't comply with the weight and height limit restrictions, then this is not the property for you to park your RV or boat. But the bottom line is our traffic will be minimal, have minimal impact and well within the capacity limits of South High Road. You can go to the next slide. I just kind of wanted to point out the immediate adjacent areas. Our properties, you can see our property lines below, but to the north is the Exxon plant. We're immediately adjacent to it. To the east, it's vacant, but it's actually pipeline property owned by Exxon. To the south, there is a smaller parcel located directly south of us and that fronts South High Road. That is owned by Citgo. And then below us is a residence improved with a landscape business that has some pretty intense uses, so much so they're showing up, and these photos are from Will County GIS 2024, so much so that you can see the amount of vehicles and equipment parked out there. And then to the west of us across High Road is the Citgo refinery. Next slide, please. Just wanted to make sure we're answering all the appropriate questions about our proposed layout. The big thing is it's going to be 40 feet drive aisles. The parking spots, all parking spots are going to be uniform. They're going to be 40 by 12 feet. And again, that's approximately 600 depending on final site development approval. The spots in the middle that have the double parking, our intention is to put like a rope with numbered parking spaces on one, because we are requesting to use asphalt grindings. You can't really paint the lots because we think they would maybe deteriorate. We think it'd be better to set them off with numbering with designations for each spot. I know the fire department wanted to make sure that we had sufficient room. The kind of lines around is just a rudimentary drawing showing that the fire truck would have circulation. Obviously, during site development, if they require any specific drawings, we would address that. But because of the width of the drive aisles, we don't anticipate that to be issues. We've also, we've updated our plans. We're going to build 100 by 200 concrete landing pad at the entranceway, in addition to the approximately 50 feet that will be paved at the entranceway into the right of way. We believe this would ease any concerns about possible dust leaving the site from the asphalt grindings. Again, though, the asphalt grindings, we're proposing 2 feet of them compacted. We don't believe that is a dusty surface at all. It does comply with the ordinance that requires all weather dust free. Next slide, please. Landscaping, and this was one of the conditions that was modified by the Plan Commission and it discussed at the last land use meeting. What we're proposing to do is put a 6-foot privacy fence along South High Road, board on board, and then with plantings in front of it between the roadway. I think that would create sufficient screening along there. Along the other perimeters, we're proposing to put an 8-foot chain link fence for security purposes. That means no one will be able to just walk onto the property in the back, and particularly if you're storing someone's expensive boat, you don't want people access. And then what we're proposing is behind that fence is, and again, it will be determined during site development, we will be building some minor berms, maybe 3 to 4 feet, planting significant trees, including right now our current plans call for 974 arborvitaes. to be planted in a dense row along all the perimeters. That's a significant amount of plantings. That number may change depending on the existing trees, depending on final site development, but the plan is to enclose the entire property with sufficient natural plantings, not just large trees, but putting on a screened row of arborvitaes as a buffering from essentially, the Exxon pipeline property and a landscaper. But we are complying with all requirements and have gone above and beyond as far as the landscape and screening. Next slide, please. Again, we put some rudimentary concept plans together here just to kind of give you an overall look and feel. The pond area is the grass area. It is detention, meaning it's intended to be dry. It may be filled with water at times. You can see the pad on there. You can see the Exxon plant, some of the neighbor to the south. If you can go to the next slide.
God bless you.
Bless you. This slide, this concept plan is actually put in with actual drone footage of the neighbors showing their current conditions. And you can see though, with our screening efforts, this property makes sense next to an Exxon plant. Finally, if you go to the last slide. Again, this is just a street view of the proposed entrance. The plantings, they will most likely, based on our landscape plan, be more than what's shown on here. But I'm just kind of showing the gate. I know there were some discussions about our gate. It's an Opticon receiver in that emergency vehicles, their flashing lights actually trigger it. My clients utilize it at their current other facility they own. You go to the next slide. Again, we are requesting the special use, and as the Plan Commission initially modified, we are requesting it with the 8 conditions. Number one is the right of the county to inspect to ensure compliance. We have no objection to that. 2, the special use runs with the land and is transferable, meaning it's binding on any other subsequent owners. Number 3, and this is specific, there is no parking of semi-trucks and trailers. And number 4, no storage of cargo containers. Again, those restrictions are included in the special use. If we are found in violation, it subjects us to revocation of the actual use itself. Number 5, we are agreeable with all the compliances with the county's resource recovery and energy conditions or ordinance. Number 6, the installation of the 6-foot solid fence along with the 8-foot with plantings, and then the 8-link chain link fence along the perimeter with plantings behind it. Number 7, the condition that we put in asphalt grindings as the surface area of the parking area, and we are okay with the requirement that it be 24 inches 2 feet deep before compaction. So it would be, a lot of times you see asphalt grindings and they put like 2 or 3 inches and then compact it. And I would probably agree with you that may deteriorate a little quicker. We think by adding this larger area or thicker asphalt grindings, it will create a much more desirable surface. Again, as I mentioned at our last meeting, we have been in discussions with Orange Crush, another local company, about accepting their asphalt grindings and utilize it from this. And I know there's potentially a concerned resident who will claim we've done grading because he saw trucks out there, as we mentioned at the last meeting. That was Orange Crush coming and testing the surface to make sure that when we make this requirement, they can put in the 2 feet of grindings and the ground is compatible for that surface. And then number 8, which was added by the Plan Commission, and we have no objection. There's no maintenance of vehicles on this property. I may come back up if you have questions, but I'm going to have Vitas, my property owner, step up here. He wanted to say a few words. But again, I thank you for your time and thank you for your consideration.
Thank you, Mr. Martin.
Good morning, all. My name is Vitas Aranauskas, and I'm one of the owners of Around the Holdings. I would decide to come and speak here today before the vote because I feel it's necessary for you to hear from owner's point of view how all of this has been going on. A few short facts about Around the Holdings. We're a family-owned real estate holding company with about a 29-acre piece of land in Romeo, which is currently occupied by our trucking company business we have. We have more poor properties in Romeo, and I'm sure if we would have somebody here from Romeo, they would only say good things about us, you know. We also developed a couple of properties in Downers Grove, which is condo buildings and so on. Now about the High Road project. We purchased this piece of land back in 2021. It has been for sale for quite some time before we expressed our interest in it, but nobody had brought much attention to this, including Citgo. Before we purchased, we decided to meet with Will County and see what their feel is about this parcel. We have been upfront and told them that we want to rezone it and build a trucking facility with office, warehouse, repair shop, and truck parking. County reps welcomed this idea as they felt it's proper use due to parcel being surrounded by heaviest possible zoning. After meeting with county, we also decided to sit down with the village of Romeoville and get their feel about it. As ideally, we wanted to village of Romeo to annex this site and hopefully in the future get water and sewer inside. Romeo welcomed this idea too. They only raised the question about deteriorating road leading to our site and asked us if we would be open to partially pay for repairs of the road, which at that time was around $125,000. We agreed to that. Then a month later, we met with Romeo again to discuss our plans further. Meeting went well. Only thing was Romeo wanted $250,000 for repairs. Now we agreed on this too. We went ahead with the purchase of land and started making future with it. Scheduled another meeting with Romeo to discuss our game plan. To our surprise, Romeo changed their mind completely and told us they no longer want trucking there, don't want our money to rebuild the road, etc., etc. This was a big surprise for us, especially for the fact that we already closed on this land. After some discussion with our advisors and engineers, we decided to approach Lamont and offer them to get us annexed. We did some research and found that we could access property from north on 127th Street. If we grant access asphalt Citgo laid over years resurfacing the road under the oil pipes. As you know, clearance there is now 13.2, but originally some years ago it was 13.8 or so accessible with the semi trucks. So we approached Lamont with this unofficially, and village engineers came back saying that Lamont will be open for that. A few weeks later, we scheduled an official meeting with Lamont. We put together a comprehensive plan with traffic studies, how this would be useful for Lamont, and even offered part of our land for Citgo to use this land as a staging or turnaround area. When they come there to fill the tankers, as you are well aware, how problematic tanker traffic is now on the high road. And again, to our big surprise, Lamont has changed their mind, said that they don't want any trucking there, and they have signed or are about to sign an annexation agreement with Citgo, and they have agreed not to let us develop this land. All Citgo want there is open land. But wait, what about me as an owner? I own this land. I can't really afford to keep it as open land. And to our bigger surprise, our 90-page plan did not even show up on village meeting minutes. It was never mentioned. We feel that there's a Citgo big involvement in this, as soon as we bought property, everywhere we go, we hit the wall. The right thing to do for Citgo, we either purchase our land, but we tried to approach Citgo a couple of times and they did not express any interest in it. So now we want this piece of land to be developed into storage facility, which would be a really minimal impact to the area. I could speak much more about this project to tell us, how many times we will go somewhere, hit the wall, but it's just, my time is limited here, and all I hope that you guys will, vote yes for this. That's all I wanted to say. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Aroneskis. Did I pronounce your name right, I hope? Great, thank you. Did anyone else like to speak on this? Do we have any comments? Please approach the podium and share your name.
How you doing? My name is Dave Wilkes. I live at 13411 South High Road. I'm the second house on that road. There's only 2 houses on that road. I can go on all day here and everything else. Here's me on the cat digging the pond, okay? There's pictures of it, everything else, it's all laid out. You people can look at it. They flat out lied. When they bought the property, they filled the pond in, they rerouted water towards us. This is my backyard, which floods, okay? That's a big problem there. All that water goes this way. There's no 10-inch pipe from Mobile that goes onto their property. All Mobile's water goes down to where the Highline pipeline is. There's 2 aqueducts that go under that road. That's the next issue. The problem is they can't lower that road from 13.3 because of the aqueduct under it. It's always been 13.3. This is Kyle, the neighbors. You can look at his, how much water floods through his yard now. I've got most of them stapled and everything else. So you can look at all these pictures. Now, the man flat out lied to you when you asked him last time at the thing if they did any dirt work on the property. There's a picture of me, the cat, my daughter, everybody on there. We're fishing there and everything else. They filled it in. That's the first thing they did. Second thing they did apply to re-side the house and re-roof it. Then they applied for a demo permit to demo the house for green space. The land is A1 agriculture. It's always been that, single-family homes. He's got the other property bought on 135th Street around mine, and they tried the same thing over there. Lamont will not give him a curb cut, number one. They flat out told them that. It's too dangerous a road. The road is too narrow. They can't lower for the thing. Romeoville on their end, they don't want no trucks, nothing coming down there. It's a 5-ton low limit. When Romeoville took over and annexed my house in the corner end, the first thing they did is they took the streetlights out because they said it's a non-used road. You people need to go down there and look at it. That count they have is totally wrong. Citgo's end, and Mobile's end, yes, there's 600 trucks a day go through Mobile's terminal and Citgo's terminal on 127th Street. Very dangerous intersection, everything else. And Lamont even put it on how hazardous this is in inclement weather. So they can't go that way. So, you know, them trying to change this, and here's the next one. They got it for sale. Both properties they have for sale. The signs are up there, everything else. They're trying to sell the property. So if you want to change this and annex it in for commercial, industrial, whatever, for them to profit on this, this is a joke. You know, they've jacked around with this for over 3 years on this property. You know, playing games, sending it in, trying to get this thing past everything else. They can't get the curb cut. They can't get the access to 127th Street. They can't get access through 135th Street. They flood my yard, and I want that stopped. There's the pictures of me digging a hole and everything else. He flat out lied to you, and you asked the guy twice, and the engineer said, or the architect said, oh, they haven't done any dirt work. Now, they cut all the trees down. They got all the grindings from the trees piled all over. There's no silt fence. They said they left 100 and some good trees around the territory. I gave you the pictures. I have them here too, of all the dead trees around it. Now, they haven't done nothing in the last 3 years. They haven't cut the grass on each side of the road. The place looks like a pigsty, and it's going to be continued. And they're saying they want 24/7 access. There's no way. My daughter used to play on the road. My neighbor's kids play on that road. Everything else. No cars come down that road. The only thing that comes down that road is the 3 school buses, the garbage truck, and the Citgo security that drives around. And just so you people do know, you know, the reason Citgo is not here right now and everything else is because they're tied up right now because this plant has been sold. So Citgo has been sold. It's to a Venezuelan company again. It's probably Univen that's buying Citgo out. So that's why they're not there. Mobile will not annex in to Lamont area. It's unincorporated Will County, and they're staying unincorporated Will County. They're not going to annex into Romeoville or to Lamont. So if you people are going to take and approve this thing to change these guys to put this in, they own trucking terminals. Now, and here's the best one, because, which I really get a kick out of, they don't mention to you, they were the top contributors to Lamont's 150th anniversary last year. They're trying to buy their way in. I really don't see how this can happen and try to sneak this thing in and have them profit on this. You know, they knew it was A1 Ag when they bought it. They ran around like chickens with their heads cut off. They did. They went down to Romeoville and Romeoville and Lamont both flat out told them, no way. You're not getting outside storage. You're not getting anything out on that property. So if they want to continue lying, go ahead. But here's the thing. The next problem is you people can't code enforce this place. Half the road is Romeoville's, the other half is Lamont's. Anytime we call, what happens is it takes 15, 20 minutes and they sit and argue with us. Oh, you got to call Lamont. Oh, you got to call Romeoville. You know, you got to call Will County. So anything that happens on there, who's going to do the code enforcement on it? That's another big issue on this thing, because they can start parking trucks in there and who's going to stop them? Will County Sheriff's Police? I don't know. I don't understand how this works, because there's nobody there that's going to do code enforcement, because it's technically like limbo land. We're busted up into 3 different territories, you know, between Lamont, Romeoville, and Will County. And there's no way to code enforce any onto their property, because Will County flat out, I had them out there and they will not ticket trucks on that road, because if they're on Lamont's end of the road, the money goes to Lamont. If they're on Romeoville's end of the road, the money goes to Romeoville, and you can talk to your police about this. So they will not bother coming out there to ticket trucks, because they don't receive the money for the tickets. They sit on the other side on Smith Road and everything else, because that is Will County's road and they ticket them all the time. So
Thank you for coming in today.
Thank you.
Mr. Wilks. We appreciate your comments. Mr. Martin, is the parcel for sale? Is the property for sale?
This parcel has been marketed. You gotta go to the farm.
Yes, the property has been listed essentially since the day they lost it, like many real estate holding companies do. But, and while it's been marketed as different potential uses in the past, anything it would be sold would be subject to what's approved by the county. As of now, though, the intention, since they have owned this property for 3 years, have not been able to obtain approvals for their original intended use. They're looking for alternative ways to put their property to use. And we believe this is the least intense, particularly based on the location restrictions next to an Exxon plant.
And I agree. This is less intensive use of the property. So my question is if the property is sold, can the new owner put in a higher intent use, industrial use, without coming back for staff to
I mean, I
either approve it or?
I could answer that, because we're not seeking to change the underlying A1 zoning. It will still have the A1 zoning with the restrictions imposed by your A1 zoning ordinance.
Right.
we're asking-
But
yeah.
once you sell that property, I need to know from staff, if somebody comes in and wants to change the use to a truck terminal, do they have to come forward and then adjust this permit or?
The property is currently zoned A1, so all uses permitted in A1 are permitted. They are asking for a special use permit to be transferable, so if they do sell the property and this gets approved, then the new owners would be able to have the special use. A truck terminal would require rezoning to an industrial zoning district, which also may include a special use permit. So
But then they have to come back to us.
Correct.
Exactly. Okay, thank you. Appreciate
No.
that. Does anybody have any questions? Raquel, you're good? Joe?
I do not have any questions. This packet was very informative. To answer some of the gentleman's concerns, special use for an outdoor storage yard for the parking of RVs, boats, motorcycles, and other compatible and permitted items. No parking of semi-trucks and trailers, and no stacking of containers. It's very well spelled out. The county has the right to inspect. You know, we just talked about the special use permit is transferable. If they do want to change to semi-trucks, they do have to come back in front of the land use board and also full board for that approval. So that would not be acceptable. It looks like the screening and the fencing is extensive. There's going to be no maintenance on any of the vehicles. They are, and most importantly, they're not asking for a zoning change. This is Ag 1. This is right by the refineries. And I think it is a very light use for this area. And if the statements were true by the gentleman and the owner about, to me, seems like he's been getting the runaround for 3 years and just trying to find a use for this property. And I think this use is probably the best fit for him. So thank you for coming in, and I will be a yes.
Thank you.
I do have a,
And-
when you're done,
Okay, and I agree with you, Joe. I appreciate you sharing the history of your interactions with the local municipalities. I will let the committee know that I actually did reach out to Exxon and inquired about the use of that road. Did they have any concerns, safety concerns? They're completely comfortable with this project. They don't see any issues. So I think that is also a good fact to know. Raquel, did you?
yeah, I just have one concern, and I'm okay with your project too. But I am concerned about the flooding that's happening in your yard. So can we say for certain that this has contributed to that flooding, and how can we make this situation better? Because that's my biggest concern, that they feel that your improvements to the property, for lack of a better word, improvements to the property has affected their flooding.
Mr. Wilkes' property, and we had pointed this out at the last meeting, is actually located within designated floodplain. I have the FEMA map or from the Will County GIS showing that it runs across his property. But bottom line, under our site development approval, under the county stormwater ordinances, we are not allowed to increase water flowing downstream. And in fact, our proposal is we're accepting more and discharging less, attempting to slow the rates of water that travel off it comes off the Exxon plant.
How would that affect his and the
He's
neighbors?
several properties away from us. And again, his property's already within designated floodplain. So I don't anticipate, we're not going to increase his flooding. But as far as the neighboring properties, and Aramis, if you want to, our engineers here, if you want to get extremely technical about it, but we're not going to increase water entering any properties to the south of us. We're actually going to be slowing it and improving the drainage as it comes through our property, including building a 3-acre detention pond.
Yeah, I heard that. So the question I have for staff is whether or not you believe that their improvements to the property has contributed to the flooding in the area. I heard the flood zone. I heard that floodplain. I got you. But I just wanted to know, because apparently there wasn't as much flooding before. That's what I'm getting. Am I correct, sir? There wasn't as much flooding before, and now there's flooding. Okay, you're not at the microphone. So I just want to get to that.
I mean, I cannot speak directly for engineering. I did reach out to our commercial plan engineer. There is an open site development permit. If this does get approved, they'll have to receive approval from engineering and zoning. But I did reach out to our commercial plan engineer about the supposed pond on the property. Just based on aerial, she said that it did look like it was a pond. But she said that regardless, that, in the site development permit, they're going to need to provide detention. Engineering will have to sign off on it. She said at a minimum, it was depressional storage. So, yeah, I think it just needs to be reviewed at an engineering level.
And Mr. Martin, you said that's a 3-acre detention pond, didn't you?
Yes.
Okay, all right. We've got detention ponds in our subdivision. We actually have 2, and they're pretty effective. So one question I had for you was regarding the feedback from the Lamont Fire District.
Yes.
They had a couple of requests. One, the address must be visible from the roadway.
Yep.
They want access to the parking and a gate, and I believe you said the emergency lights.
The
will-
Opticon, yes, the Opticon
Okay.
gates, yes.
And the access roads, a width of not less than 20 feet and vertical clearance not less than 13 feet, 6 inches. So is that all complied
We're
with?
fully agreeable to the fire district's comments once they were received. I mentioned that in past correspondence to the county, but I can state it here
Okay.
again, that we are.
Thank you. So my question to staff, do we need to add these to the conditions, or Mr. Martin has indicated that they're going to be complying with this?
I believe fire department approval will be required.
Okay, okay,
I believe it's also, I believe the fire department, and Ashlyn can correct me if I'm wrong, that's also part of the site development, and that they're not going to approve a site development plan unless the fire department has all its proper access. But our intention is to put the sign up with the contact info for our management company.
okay.
So-
Thank you. I think, any other questions? Okay, thank you, Mr.
Thank
Martin.
you.
And are there any other comments from the audience? Dawn, I think we can have a roll call.
Van Dyne,
Yes.
Jerry Newquist. Yes. Carl Mitchell.
Yes. Okay, number 2, ordinance amending the Will County, Illinois zoning ordinance adopted and approved September 9th, 1947 as amended. Catherine Beavers and Tony George, owner of record, Tony George of Real People Realty, agent, and Sarah Gray of Law Office of Sarah J. Gray, PC attorney, requesting ZC 24-036, S-24-047 special use permit for a detached accessory dwelling unit and V-24-217 variance for maximum accessory dwelling unit area from 565 square feet to 1,111 square feet, PIN number 15-08-06-300-011-0000 in New Lenox Township, commonly known as 2549 Gulf Road, Joliet, County Board District 5. Ashlyn, do you have any comments on this?
Not unless you have any
Okay.
questions.
All right.
Second.
All in favor? Or- All right. Do we need a roll call then, Dawn? Okay. Thank you. Ordinance amending the Will County, Illinois zoning ordinance adopted and approved September 9th, 1947 as amended for zoning case ZC 24-027 Storage Squares LLC. Owner of record, Frank Hackenass Jr., 20% interest, Sherry Hackenass, 20% interest, Dana Nagel, 20% interest, Bill Zaluski of Advantage Consulting Agent requesting M-24-004 map amendment from A1 to I2, S-24-040 special use permit for truck terminal, S-24-041 special use permit for outdoor storage, S-24-042 special use permit for an accessory dwelling unit for security, V-24-163 variance for maximum accessory dwelling unit area from 650 square feet to 720 square feet, PIN 18-13-19-200-017-000 in Green Garden Township, commonly known as 11401 West Manhattan Monee Road, Monee, Illinois, County Board District 3. Now, I thought it was, Green Garden Township is in support of this.
Well, can I ask a question?
Sure, do you want Ashlyn to comment on any of?
Please, yeah, I'll make a motion to approve. If somebody wants to second, and then we can have discussion. So yeah, I saw the letter that Green Garden Township requested that we delay this so that they had a chance to review it. And I was just wondering if that happened or not.
Yeah, you're welcome.
Yeah, I'll answer that question. So yeah, this case was originally scheduled for June 4th PCC meeting. And then we received a request to postpone this to a later date to allow Green Garden Township to hear the case. So this did occur on July 8th. And yeah, like you said, the Green Garden Township did approve of the conditions of the request.
Okay, and staff, the conditions that the soil and water had in the report, is that addressed in this as well? That was in your staff report?
Yeah, I'll answer that again. So yeah, a lot of those recommendations will be part of the site development permit again. So, you know, if this request is approved and they go ahead with their site development permit, most of them will be addressed in the site development permit process.
Okay, thank you. And you don't have a nameplate. Remind us of your name.
My name is Jesus.
Jesus?
Yes.
Thank you. Appreciate it. We need to get him a nameplate. All right, are we ready for a vote? And I'll,
Previous role, Van Dyne?
second Berkowitz. All right, where are we at? I should have checked this. Okay, ordinance amending the Will County, Illinois zoning ordinance adopted and approved September 9th, 1947 as amended for zoning case ZC 24-040. Dale Steffi's 50% interest in JAS Family Trust owner of record. Christy Benson, 20% interest. Tad Steffi's 20% interest. Jody Clark, 20% interest. Molly Salzman, 20% interest. And Jake Steffi's 20% interest. 50% interest. Kiara Gavin of Valerian Solar LLC agent and Mark Gershon of Paul Sinelli Law Firm attorney requesting S-24-058 special use permit for a commercial solar energy facility. V-24-184 variance for number of required mowings from 5 times to 2 times per year. And V-24-185 variance for maximum ground cover, plant height from 13 inches to 24 inches for pin 10 dash. Oh, man, yes,
I'm sorry to interrupt.
yes,
Am I on?
yes.
Too loud? If I may, I'm sorry for interrupting, but on the last case, number 3, ZC 24027, I just want to make sure I understood correctly. There were 4 requests, a map amendment, a special use 3 separate special use permits. Did we vote on all 4 of those?
No, well, we voted once, so we need to.
What I would
Okay.
suggest,
We voted, Julie.
Okay,
what I would
Oh.
suggest is that we
Okay.
do, if you want to do a prior roll, that's fine, but we do them one at a time, so we know
Okay.
that each one was approved. I'm sorry if I missed it, but if we didn't, then
okay, so I just have a big paragraph here. So let's go back to number 3. So the first zoning case, ZC-24-027. So we need a vote on that, correct? Okay, all right. Board, okay, let's see. So it says requesting M-24-004. So we have to vote on that, correct? Okay, yeah, from A1 to I2. Do I have a second, Berkowitz?
Second, Van Dyne.
All in favor? Aye, thank you. Okay, then the next one is the special use permit for truck terminal S-24-041. Oh, sorry, that's at the, okay, let me back up. S-24-040. And do I have a motion? Previous row, Berkowitz.
Second.
All in favor? Okay. And number 3 is S-24-041, special use permit for outdoor storage. Do I have a motion?
Previous roll, Van Dyne.
Second, Berkowitz. All in favor? Aye. Thank you. Okay, then one more. Special use permit for an accessory dwelling unit for security. V-24-163. Do I have a motion?
I'll second.
Oh, sorry, I skipped a line. Okay, special use permit for outdoor storage S-24-042. Do I have a motion? Second, Berkowitz.
Previous roll.
All in favor? Aye. Thank you. So, okay. Is that good? This is one compact paragraph here, trying to, a lot of words. Okay. So we can move on to number 4. Thank you. All right. Oh, do I need to read this over again? Here we go. Have patience. I'll read quickly. Ordinance amending the Will County, Illinois zoning ordinance adopted and approved September 9th, 1947 as amended for zoning case ZC-24040 Dale Steffi's 50% interest in JAS Family Trust owner of record. Christy Benson, 20% interest. Tad Steffi's 24% interest. Jody Clark, 20% interest. Molly Salzman, 20% interest. And Jake Steffi's 20% interest, 50% interest. Kiara Galvin of Valerian Solar LLC agent and Mark Gershon of Paul Sinelli Law Firm attorney requesting S-24-058 special use permit for a commercial solar facility, V-24-184 variance for number of required mowings from 5 times to 2 times per year, and V-24-185 variance for maximum ground cover plant height from 13 inches to 24 inches for PIN 10-11-15-300-032-0000, commonly known as 25217 South Chicago Road, Elwood, Illinois, County Board District 2. And this is Ashlyn again. And any, would you like to discuss anything on this?
I can do a summary of the project if you would like, but I have nothing specific.
Okay. Yeah.
Second Mitchell.
Let's see. Please come up to the podium. Thank you.
I push it off. There you go. The red tricked me. Usually, sometimes that means off. We'll go with it. Thank you, Madam Chair. Good morning. My name is Ben Jacoby. I'm the attorney for the project company, for the parent company Cultivate Power. If it pleases the committee, I can provide some background on this project for a few minutes.
Thank you.
Again, I'm the attorney. It's my privilege to be here to speak this morning. Kiera Gavin's the lead developer. She regrets not being able to be here. She's actually volunteering at a camp this week, and she was unable to attend. So I'm here to answer questions and to briefly present the project. I actually used to defend the county in liability claims a long time ago, no longer do so. I don't recognize anybody here, so that's a good thing. But today I'm speaking on the project. We were thrilled to receive a positive recommendation from staff before the PZC. And we are also very honored, I think that's the right word, honored to receive a recommendation from the PZC as well to approve the special use permit with conditions, 6 conditions, with a vote of 6-1 last week, 2 weeks ago. The project is approximately 4.48 megawatts on about 25 acres. It's west of Elwood. It's off South Chicago, where South Chicago meets 53 and south of Manhattan. It's a really good site for solar. I'm familiar with this area. I represented JADA and some of that development. Our firm represented JADA and a local 150 over in the training area. We worked on those developments. There's a lot of intermodals and warehouses in the area. Joliet has this parcel identified in its future plan as industrial. There's a lot of natural screening. It's set very far back from South Chicago and from the houses on South Chicago, set back from all residences in great deal. The landowner currently lives on the property, is expecting to continue to live on the property. So this is set back sort of behind the landowner's house there. So it's a good site for solar. I know that this isn't the county's first solar project, so I won't spend a lot of time explaining solar or how it works. But this project comes with the same types of benefits that you've probably heard before. I'll just briefly go through them, highlight a few that are important. Taxes, of course, the property is the solar farm is assessed at a fair market value of $218,000 per megawatt, and then it's adjusted accordingly and taxed. And over the life of this project, it's estimated about $600,000 will generate from this project in property taxes. It's a community solar project, so it operates on the same model you've seen before, where subscribers in the distribution network can subscribe to this project and receive a discount on their supply bill. It'll create at least 30 prevailing wage construction jobs during construction. It's also a temporary use, as most of these solar projects are. This one is. So at the end of the life, it will be decommissioned. It signed an agricultural impact mitigation agreement with the Illinois Department of Agriculture, which it must. As you know, that's non-negotiable. It's a form on the website. You either sign it or you don't. You have to sign it to get a project. This project has. That agreement requires preservation of the soil and certain mitigation practices so that the soil and the farmland can be farmed again once the project is removed, and it has decommissioning requirements in there as well. And also, of course, it's a supply of domestic energy, which is important to us. There were no objections from any agency at the PZC. Jackson Township even came out in support of the project, so we were very proud to receive that support. The PZC hearing went very smoothly. We do have some neighbors who asked some questions at the PZC about who live to the north, and they had some questions about the access road and how the access road would impact the stream. We explained that the IDNR had studied and provided an EcoCat with certain recommendations in there, to which we are committed to make sure that we don't impact any of the wildlife that would be present in that stream, and also the runoff will be studied pre and post construction as is required. A stormwater study will be required for the building permit, for the construction permit, for the site development permit, and then post construction studies will be completed as well to ensure that there's no change in the water runoff that from the access road specifically, because it runs near that stream. We took great care to design the project and the application in compliance with your solar ordinance. And the PZC found that it was in compliance with section 155(9.245, and of course also with the state law 512.020. We hope to earn your vote today. We look forward to it, and I am here to answer questions specific on the project or anything else you may be curious about. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Jacoby. You had a question? Go ahead.
And this might be more for staff, I'm not sure, but I saw that Will South Cook Soil and Water Conservation District had some concerns about the creek. They wanted a minimum 50-foot wide vegetative buffer strip, and there was some concerns about erosion control. And I know you had said that you guys were committed to following the recommendations, but is that something we can write into the conditions of the special use permit, or do we not normally do that?
You could add a condition for working with Will South Cook. They are required to do a conservation and a drain tile study during the site development permit as well.
If I may jump in as well, regarding the site development permit for any type of solar developments within waterways, if there's wetlands, usually a wetland delineation report would be submitted to the county, and then further determination of jurisdiction would be required, whether that's the Army Corps of Engineer or the county, which would require a minimum, I believe, 50 feet to 100-foot setback outside of the wetlands.
Yeah, I've just never seen anything about a buffer with a creek before, so I was wondering. Thank you.
It's the wetlands buffer, and that is reflected also on our site plan. We've accommodated for that. Mhm.
And one thing I wanted to ask you about was we received comments from the Illinois Historic Preservation Office regarding potential architectural items.
Yes.
And they're asking that these be recorded.
Yes.
So is that, how does that work? Like, is that something, if you agree to that, do we need to add that to the conditions? And then who do you,
So what we will need to do, I think I can answer the question. What we will need to do is conduct an ESA phase 1 study. So what was completed so far was essentially a desktop review from Illinois SHPO to determine if this is an area that's of likelihood to have anything of archaeological significance because of the stream being there. It raises the threshold to ISHPO to require an ESA phase 1. So that will be completed. If anything is found, then we will have to work with SHPO to either clear it as an appropriate site, or react accordingly, I suppose. But almost always, if something is found, like for example, if an arrowhead's found or something like that, then we'll go to SHPO and we'll work with them to determine whether any additional protection or mitigation is required.
okay, great, thank you.
I do want to add that's also added as a condition already.
It's
So,
a condition,
Yep,
good.
it is.
Okay, awesome. Raquel?
Yeah, I have a question about the planting, I'm sorry, about mowings and the ground cover going from 13 inches to 24 inches. And in my mind, that sounds like a mess. So explain to me why we're going from, why we're reducing the amount of mowings and increasing the amount of height of planting.
Yes, ma'am. So that is required so the site will be planted with native prairie grass pollinator seed mix. The site will be a pollinator friendly mix. So what you will see out there will be wildflowers and native prairie grass wildflower prairie land, essentially underneath and around the panels. In order for that to take hold after planting, it needs to grow up to a certain height, and it can't be mowed as often as your code would otherwise require. So so the mowing will be for the grasslands that are in the area, and to the extent there's weeds that need to be maintained in the prairie grass, native pollinator friendly area, that will be the mowing that does take place, but they need to be up to 24 inches in order to survive as wildflower.
Mr. Jacoby, will you be working with the Soil and Water Conservation District in regards to the planting medium and what you're putting in there? Because if you put plant species that aren't beneficial or can create problems,
Yeah.
that's something we want to avoid. So will you be working with them to, before you just start
Yes, and I
laying any planting medium down?
was checking to see if we had any more detail on what that is. I can tell you that the Illinois state, in order to be a pollinator friendly, quote unquote, pollinator friendly solar farm, and to qualify as pollinator friendly within the adjustable block program, if we were to so apply to that, we have to meet certain requirements on a scorecard that they publish. And that is that's important for the project, not only because it helps preserve the area, it also helps, not only does it preserve the area in current form, so it looks nice to have, you know, prairie grass and flowers out there. It preserves agriculture for later because the rooting encourages additional and better filtration of water, and it assists in water runoff control. It also rejuvenates carbon and nitrogen in the soil for future production. So the question is, you know, what will we be actually using out there, and will it be, you know, something consistent with native topography and native, you know, plantings? And that question, I think it is within the EPC's sort of control to find what is available at the time and what is consistent with the native, native temperament and planting.
So they're not necessarily looking at individual areas within the state. But in our area, especially
Yeah.
with our farmers,
Mhm.
there are species that can cause a lot of problems, and we know best in our county.
Sure thing.
So I would really like to make sure that you're working with them.
Yeah.
Because again, if you plant something and it doesn't make sense, in the end, we have problems and possibly failure. So.
Sure. I can commit to that. Yeah.
Okay,
Mhm.
do we need to, should we put that in as a condition, Marguerite? That they work with the soil and water conservation?
Part of the requirements for the solar projects are, submitting a conservation plan, which needs to be reviewed by the Will South Cook Soil and Water Conservation District. So going forward, they will be working with them. It is up to this committee and the county board if they want to add a condition to stress that, but it is a code requirement.
Okay.
Yeah.
Judy?
Yeah, thank you so much. So I just wanted to address a couple things. One, Sherry, your question was very good, asking about that. And you guys should all know that I've been meeting with the Will South Cook Soil and Water Conservation District along with land use to go over some of these things and come up with the good solar guidelines so that we can address some of these issues in the forefront. So one of the things is and I've talked with Kira about this, so this solar plan doesn't really bother me. But other ones that if the farmer is not planting anything beforehand, if the property owner is the solar company, sometimes then they won't plant. We had that on a farm, on a solar facility in Moni, which causes a lot of issues with sediment control and stuff like that. So we're recommending that you guys should consider putting in a condition for all solar that they have so as staff will tell you, they have to work with it, but it's after the fact, okay? We need, at the point in time when we are making this decision that this gets done, to make sure that there is a cover crop planted if they're not going to be planting a crop, so there is not going to be any type of sediment trouble or water runoff that causes trouble everywhere, which has happened in a couple different things. And of course, that topography of the land. So we're hoping that they can have conversations with soil and water early on and putting that in the mix. I did talk specifically with Kira about this. Like I said, I'm not concerned about this one, but moving forward, you guys should be looking at putting in a recommendation for that. And as far as the cutting from 5 times to 2, so that is what you want to do. The solar company gets extra credit by becoming a pollinator. But remember, pollinators are good just for bees and things like that, but they don't control anything else, right? But he has the prairie grass mix in there, and that helps keep the soil pollinators, make it look good. And yeah, it's good for the bees, but our concern is make sure that the water is good and the soil doesn't run off. So that is something that they should do. So you could say that they should work with them in advance to make sure, because I know seed mix is sometimes difficult to get. Okay, so depending on when they're gonna do this project, to get the right seed mix, sometimes you have to get in advance. And Soil and Water has the opportunity to get seed mix through them versus other avenues as well. 'Cause
Yeah.
they have different contacts. So those are things that you guys should always be paying attention to. And it's a learning process, right? We've learned with every single solar facility that's come forward, we've learned more and more. And this team, this new team of land use has all learned more things as we go. And then, like I said, I'm having these outside discussions, and most of the companies want to do a good job and do that. Some don't. So we just want to make sure, if this is the farmer's owning the land, so he's going to plant this crop, and there's not going to be a time delay where there be an empty field without something on it. So that's kind of a good thing. But sometimes it might be beneficial still to throw a cover crop, let it grow a little bit. They can work on it, install everything, and at least something will still be there during that installation time. So I just want to make you guys aware of that type of situation. Like I said, I did talk to Kiera about this, and they have all that stuff covered for this particular project. But going forward with any others, I don't always have those in-depth conversations with them, so.
Okay. Excellent. Thank you for sharing that, Judy. I would say just let's start today as you, as you shared with us. I'd like to make a motion to add a condition that if for some reason, there was any, season where there wasn't going to be, the solar facility was not completed, that there be either a ground cover or that the parcel be farmed, maybe leased to a farmer and farmed. So can we add that condition?
I would ask that we at least keep the ground cover element in there in case we can't lease to a farmer, or
so
in case they're not farming.
One or the other.
And that we work
of-
with Soil and Water Conservation
Yeah.
District to determine what would be appropriate.
And it probably, I don't know, should it be like a temporary ground cover? I don't think things like wheatgrass, that probably.
So it would be temporary because it'd
Yeah.
be just prior to them installing it. Once
So we want to
Once
make
it's
sure.
installed, then you want to go ahead and make
Mhm.
sure that they
Yeah.
have to follow the AMA, and the AMA requires everything else to have some sort of cover.
So we'd probably want to make sure that the ground, if you put a ground cover on there, that it's a species that Soil and Water are okay with as well. So I'd like to make a motion that we add that condition.
Those two.
So do you want it to read to spread temporary ground cover according to soil and water regulations?
Or farm crop. So they have,
Ground cover or farm crop?
mhm.
And I don't know if Soil and Water Conservation has a regulation on it, so maybe we can
Okay.
say, in cooperation with Soil and Water Conservation District or.
It's, I think that's the same message, correct? We could, yes, Sherry.
Thank you. I was just going to suggest that, given that we don't know if we're wording this appropriately or not, maybe for this instance, we just put in a condition that they are required to work with, soil and water conservation on, on ground cover issues, and then going forward, we come up with a better way to add this into the mix. Just a thought.
Well, I don't think we should be vague here. We can improve the language in the future, but I think it's important that we have that specification here. We want we don't want that bare soil. We don't want it to be, okay.
It's prior to site development. So
Prior-
site development, they
Thank
have to
you.
do it.
Prior
But prior to site development, I think what Sherry says is good enough, as long as it is like that. We can get good wording from Soil and Water if we want to do that for other conditions. This one I'm not concerned about, like I said. But that way we know that prior, in case there's a lapse if something happens and the farmer doesn't plant, something happens on their end, then prior to that, they would have to put something in to just, it's a cover crop is what they do, is put in a cover crop. It's inexpensive to plant, but it maintains the soil.
Okay, Joe?
Yeah, thank you, Judy, for that. It was kind of, my concern is, I think this board should know what kind of crop we're going to put in. Maybe soil and water conservation requires the super expensive cover crop. Maybe they don't. We don't know that, but I don't want a company to have to come in and have their crop completely destroyed after the project starts and waste a bunch of money.
So usually a cover crop, you don't harvest it. It's just land cover. Yeah, it's an inexpensive planting.
So we still the board needs to understand how much it costs. And if it is true that it is inexpensive, then that's the route I think we should go.
Yeah, if I could just have one extra moment. So I want to talk about, when we're talking about expense, I'm going to be getting pictures from the Moni solar facility at Route 50 and Offner Road. And Sherry, you kind of live close. Maybe you could take a ride out. So they just put in landscaping and it's extensive. And I think it's absolutely over the top and extremely expensive. I'm going to find out how much, I don't know if staff can find that out for that facility, how much they spent, but they put in fairly large, I think like about a 5-foot spruce trees. They put in bushes, all kinds of stuff. That is totally not needed out in the agricultural area because there's nothing surrounding it. And one side goes up against 50, and between that property and 50 is the easement. There's nothing but crazy bushes and trees. We need to pay attention when we're asking for landscaping to be specific. So if it's close to somebody's home and you guys want landscaping, I think it's good. Otherwise, I prefer, and I think you guys should too, taking the dollars, asking the solar company, instead of investing in landscaping out in the middle of the country, right? Where you're putting in trees, if you're going to return it to farmland, you got all these roots and everything like that. And I don't even know how much will stay simply because there's no water source for something like that. I would like to see us, instead of focusing always on that, look at the fact of saying, listen, well, we know you're going to spend approximately this much money, and staff can give us an idea of what they're spending for landscaping. We would prefer that if you take that and donate it into that cost, donate it to the local community for something else, like they've bought a brush truck, they've donated to food pantries, things like that. That makes sense. So their money would not be wasted. So if you want to talk about wasting dollars, the cover crop is definitely not going to waste any money. But landscaping, the extensive landscaping, and I'll get pictures so you guys, and I'll send it to you guys. I'll give it to Dawn, and then Dawn can send it out to all of you. That can be extreme, depending on a company. It's like great landscaping, but it's in the middle of nowhere.
I was going to say it looked really nice.
Yeah, it looks really nice, doesn't it, Sherry?
So Judy, we spoke about the need to have a special meeting. I would suggest that we also add that as a topic to a meeting in the future. So,
I have some recommended language I've kind of been working on, and I also received some comment from the client while we were here. I can provide even more detail, but something like prior to site development, the applicant will install ground cover, a cover crop, or farm the area in consultation with the Soil and Water Conservation District. That would be sort of the vaguer part.
okay.
Okay, do you want me to go for it again? Prior to site development, the applicant will install ground cover, a cover crop, or farm the area in the least, LEASED, leased area in consultation with the Soil and Water Conservation District. And for the record, just in case anybody is curious, what we generally use for our cover crop are things like red clover, purple coneflower, lance leaf, wild geranium, brown fox sedge, nodding wild onion, Kentucky bluegrass. So something in the like of those, if that means anything to anybody in this room, but that's what the developer told me.
I don't know about the bluegrass, but I recognize the others.
Okay.
Okay. So do we need to make a motion for that condition? So motion to add that condition?
We had two.
We're working on this condition.
I understand, but I'm saying you had two conditions. That was one of the conditions that you mentioned.
But that's part of the same.
Was it the ESA Phase 1, which is already part of the
Right, it's
conditions?
part of it. No, if it's part of it, we don't need to add it. Okay. Yes, please.
I'll second it.
And
Including that language.
do we need a vote? Okay. Roll call, please.
Number 7. Joe Van Dyne?
Yes.
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 Before voting on the special use permit, can we check that there's no concerned citizens that want to speak?
Oh, yes. Do we have any citizens in the audience that are here to speak on this case? Any comments? And I don't see any. Okay.
Then I will make a motion to approve the special use permit with the added condition.
All in favor?
Previous roll.
Second, Berkowitz. All in favor? Aye. Okay.
Thank you.
All right, thank you. So we have got three requests here. Requesting S-24-058 special use permit for a commercial solar facility. So we did that, correct?
The other two are variances, so you're good with just the one special use.
Okay, we don't need to vote on those. All right, thank you. All right, number 5, ordinance amending the Will County, Illinois zoning ordinance adopted and approved September 9th, 1947 as amended for zoning case ZC-24-044 Iftikhar Ashraf and Sharish Ashraf, owner of record, requesting M-24-007 map amendment from R2 to A1, 07-01-19-401-015-000 and 07-01-19-401-016-0000 S-24-061 special use permit for rural events V-24-205 variance for minimum lot area from 10 acres to 8.71 acres and V-24-2006 variance for minimum side setback, yard setback, east side from 50 feet to 41 feet for PIN 07-401-015-000 and 07-01-19-401-016-0000 and 07-19-401-005-0000 in Wheatland Township, commonly known as 25640 West 119th Street, Plainfield, Illinois, County Board District 8. And this is Kelly.
So I'll just kind of give like a short little summary. So this applicant is requesting a map amendment from R2 to A1, a special use permit for rural events and 2 variances. This parcel contains, or this property contains 3 separate parcels. 2 of them are currently zoned R2 and another one is zoned A1. The applicant is requesting that map amendment to rezone those R2 parcels to A1 to combine 3 parcels and request a special use permit for rural events. Staff received 3 emails from 2 separate citizens objecting to zoning case. They also received 2 letters of support. Some of the concerns included in the emails were expansion of events, privacy, traffic concerns, and real estate values. The Planning and Zoning Commission approved the 2 variances as well as recommended approval for the map amendment and special use permit, and staff recommends denial for the map amendment and special use. The applicant's here to answer questions and I am too. Yeah.
Okay, thank you, Kelly. Would anyone like to come up and speak?
I do have a question for staff.
Oh, sure. Sherry, go ahead and.
Thank you. I just have a question for staff. Can you guys, I mean, I read that case, but I couldn't figure out, can you explain why you recommended denial?
So recommended of denial for the map amendment was based on the map amendment criteria that we review. So some of the ones that are looked at was like the trend of development in the land, resource management plan. And the special use was based on the, special use permit criteria reviewed, as well.
I know, but and when I read those, I still wasn't picking up as to why you guys denied. So was
Okay.
there anything in particular that, and maybe that I just didn't read it carefully enough, I'm sorry,
Yeah.
but I was really puzzled by that. Thanks.
So for in terms of the map amendment or special use, both? So the map amendment, with the criteria when looking at it, looking at the, properties in the vicinity of the area, they were mainly, zoned or residential, as well as the trend of development in the area is towards the residential subdivisions. It's not, moving towards agriculture, as well as it didn't, the land resource management plan has this, planned as, suburban communities, not agricultural. So that was kind of for the map amendment. And then for the special use permit, it's kind of looking at the, first one and looking at that the rural events may be detrimental or endanger the public's health. Looking at that, it was just due to the possible increase of traffic in the area, as well as, the impact towards their residential neighbors.
Thank you, Kelly. And
Good morning,
welcome.
Tom Osterberger. I'm an attorney for the applicant. The applicants are here along with their son. They also have a 3-year-old daughter who's not here. They live on the property. They purchased it about 2.5 years ago, and by all accounts, they've really cleaned it up. A couple things. So the first request to go to from R2 to an A, part of it is an A. I didn't research the history. It's unclear to me how an ag parcel got orphaned in the back there. It is adjacent to another 20-acre ag parcel. But it only makes sense when you have a large outbuilding and a home across 2 R2 pieces with an ag behind it to go to ag. I understand that, not Kelly, but I understand planning in general looks and says, hey, we're going to be residential in this area. But I think when you look at this, and if Kelly wants to, she can put up the GIS or the map. When you look, it's a hodgepodge of all different parcels. Larger parcels, ag. Across the street, there's hundreds of acres of ag. And down the street, there's thousands of acres of ag. So yes, in the future, unfortunately, human beings are going to cover the whole earth and we have to live somewhere. But I think preserving some of our ag and some of these larger parcels is important. So I would suggest that the rezoning, there should be no objection. With respect to Kelly's response on the special use permit, the applicants have planted a lot of trees. They've returned it to more of a rural feel, and they want to use the property and avail themselves of the rural events so that they can actually have events there. I understand people are concerned about traffic and about noise. So let's address both. Immediately to the east, we have an owner who's in favor. So he's immediately to the east. He owns approximately 4 acres there and then an additional 4 acres north of him. All of those homeowners butt up against their larger lots, and they butt up against 30 and have access from 30. Any rural events that would take place are well screened. You have existing screening, and the applicant's more than happy and will continue to plant screening because they want to continue the agricultural feel. They've planted approximately 50 fruit trees on the west side of the property. To the west, you have one homeowner who's approximately 9 acres. They have a very nice home, but they're quite a distance away. There's natural, large, old growth screening, and there's future screening planned for that site as well. So I think with respect to traffic, if, as Kelly suggested, the area is planned for future residential, I mean, this is nothing compared to what you're going to see by a 300 lot subdivision across the street. So our applicant has worked with the township highway commissioner because he was changing his culvert out. He needed to get a permit, so he's working with him on that. And if this is approved, he has to work with the township highway commissioner because the township highway commissioners have a right to grant permits based upon use. I would suggest he's got a very long driveway. It's a very nice rural feel. He says he can easily fit 20 cars within that driveway. So when we talk about coming off of 119th Street to get on, you shouldn't have any stacking problems like you see in other places where they have to get in. Plenty of cars can get in and get off the roadway. Overall, I think the rural events are really a neat thing. I've been here before this committee seeking approval of other rural events, as long as they are not very strange events. And I want to be careful how I say it because everybody likes something different. But rural events are supposed to be additive to the community. I was lucky enough last summer to go out to Ohio for a wedding for my niece. Very similar. It was on about 10 acres, and it was a former apple orchard. They took the outbuilding, converted it, a couple homes nearby. I didn't see any problems with traffic. It was a great event. I can't speak to the sound out there, but the county has sound ordinances. And regardless, on a special use permit, you can't be violating the ordinances or the special use can get pulled. I just hate to not see something that's unique not be approved because as a general planning rule, the county would say, gosh, we want this to be all large subdivisions. I think some of the different smaller uses add a real nice change. Otherwise, you'll see miles and miles of subdivision with no other. I think of like Bronk Farms on Bronk Road in Will County and Joliet. Every time I go by it, I think that's really neat that that's there surrounded by subdivisions. So if you have any questions, we're happy to answer them.
I do. I have a question.
Go ahead, Sherry.
Thank you. I actually have a couple of concerns. So first of all, from what I've read in the memos objecting, it sounds like they're already having events on the property without any permits or anything like that. That is definitely a concern. Second of all, what about sanitation, bathrooms, places to wash your hands? I mean, I'm assuming they're not doing food prep at the site, but they're allowing catering in, I'm assuming, for events. What about, the necessary sanitation for food presentation, if not preparation? All of those need to be addressed, and it doesn't sound like any of them are right now.
No, absolutely. And this was brought up in some of the earlier cases. We have to comply with all of the regulations in the county, including the health department. The structure itself, if they choose to use it for rural events, it has to be converted. The owner's already talked to the fire department, has to deal with health department, all of those things. So while we could add conditions, they have to comply with the law.
I would like to make a condition that they cannot hold events until this gets approved and permitted.
That is 100% correct and is the law anyway. I can have our owner come down and explain what took place if you'd like to. Okay. Yeah, no, I am not. Every time I get somebody who calls me, and I just received a call from our owner last week, I tell them, whether it's what we see, trucks, I want to see none of that because it makes the job that much harder. And as a matter of fact, as we know, the county has an increased fee if you're already in violation. But to my knowledge, there was no violation.
I'm curious, what was it? I'm sorry. What was it? If the neighbors saw that there was an event, what actually was it then?
I don't know. Ms. Mitchell, let's have the owner come down and explain. There was an event. I don't know what it was, whether it was, and I don't know if Kelly knows or, okay.
Good afternoon. That's my wife, and I have my son sitting here.
Your name?
My name is Iftikhar Ashraf.
Thank you.
I'm Sarish Ashraf.
Perfect.
Thank you.
Regarding the question event, it's a 10-acre property. I have a lot of friends, family friends, and over the years, it's this property I've owned for almost 2.5 years. Been resident of Plainfield for 18 years. Every summer, I have get together. I invite friends over. In this instance, nothing different what I have done in last 2.5 years. So that's basically what I had the gathering. So at personal capacity.
But it wasn't a public, it wasn't a.
No, it's all people, the people that I knew. They came together, and obviously it was a large crowd. But again, it was nothing that I'm violating or I'm doing something that's not part of the zoning. No problem.
Any other questions? Okay. Thank you, Mr. Osterberger. I think we're good. Any other public comment on this case? Micah?
Thank you. I had spoken with, this is in Mark and I's district. I had spoken with an attorney, Nate, I do believe from your firm. The concern about parking, is 20 spots enough? Is that what I heard you say? There was 20 spots planned?
No. What I had indicated was the driveway can handle 20 before you would turn into what's going to be part of the proposed parking. The parking is, I would have to defer to the county, but the parking proposed in the future is more than enough. It's much, much more than, that's just a driveway so you could get off the street.
Okay, so, I personally don't have a problem with this. I have not heard back from Mark. But the concerns about the neighbors with the turning around in my driveway and the parking, that was the biggest concern. And like you had stated to County Board Member Newquist, in order for sanitation, you'll have to get those permits and approval by the health department and whatnot once you have started that process. Is that correct?
Yeah, that is correct. And I'm sorry, I know that Nate had indicated you were concerned about turning around in driveways. Obviously, when we get to a more rural area, and if you'd seen the pictures, that road looks very rural. If you miss it, turning around becomes difficult. And as farmers know, people pull in. I was going to talk to our applicant, work with the county to have ample signage so that if he does have an event, they know that's where, so the property frontage is long enough, depending upon the sign ordinance of the county, they could indicate that it's, the entrance is coming up.
So that's a good question. Should we have something in our ordinance for these events where there's proper signage so people don't pass the driveway and then create issues for the neighbors? Will you be doing that? Will you be providing signage for the event to guide people?
Sure. So currently, obviously, it's in a personal capacity. The event was, again, not to public. Obviously, we will do whatever it takes legally to have clear indications that, it's the entrance at the time of event. So that should not be an issue.
I'm sorry, Madam Berkowitz, while the owner is here, if you don't mind, you're planning on doing some fruit picking?
That is correct.
And you're going to use the large pole barn for any like wedding events, birthday parties. There will be no rodeos, nothing like that. It's just simply family time.
That is correct.
And I think a pumpkin patch or something I heard.
Yes. So I have experimented within the last 2 years. I've never been to a farmer, or at least I'm learning part of it. So I'm beekeeping. I'm trying that. I have grown some pumpkins just to try out. So these things, like I've said, as a 18-year-old resident of Plainfield, my son who's 17 sitting there, his starting senior year, my youngest daughter is 3. We just lost Keller's Farm, as you know, Mika. There's a 400 plus housing coming. So I really want to keep this vibrant city, Plainfield, that, people can enjoy for years to come. As, Tom mentioned that right across from us, 160 acres, God knows what's going to come out there. But having something close by for kids to enjoy and families to enjoy, I think it's a treat. So,
Sherry?
Thank you. My other concern is that generally when there's a rural event space, like in the agritourism sector, it's a working farm of some sort. And this is just an adjunct use. But if your only purpose is to have an event space, is that not more properly considered commercial development?
So the way the zoning ordinance reads, it is rural events in an ag zoning. So for example, the last time I was here several years ago, it was for a wedding hall in a 10-acre ag. There was no other ag purpose out there other than the horses.
Actually, they have vineyards, I think, if I'm thinking of the correct
No,
one.
that was a different.
That was a different one?
Yeah,
Okay.
yeah. Yeah, but there's horses. Now here, haven't discussed horses. We've talked about horses with, in different therapy stuff, horses on the property. It's just getting the right balance.
You have the orchard.
Yeah.
Yes.
Okay, thank you. You understand, I just don't want this to be a workaround for
And
a
it's-
commercial
And
zoning.
it's interesting because staff talked about commercial. It's that crossover. And so it's difficult. Once you get people, you talk about it being commercial, whereas if they showed up to buy corn, that's commercial, but it's ag. So it's interesting. And for that purpose, I think it's something nice if it's pulled off. So I never mind conditions on a special use because it gives the county comfort. But I don't know what else could be there that's not otherwise in your ordinance.
Well,
Thank you,
some
Joe.
sort of agricultural endeavor. Thank you.
I would just say the concerns about people turning around, in driveways. I think the family, once they have this event center up and running and there's, you just simple Google search will take you to exactly where you want to go. And I'm sure they want to make sure that folks can find your place properly. So I think that issue might go away once this is approved. I did talk with Mr. Washburn last week, and he did describe the project to me. I know we have approved at least one recently in the district that I represent. I love the idea. So I just wanted to tell the committee that I would like to make a motion to approve, and at that time, I will be a yes. Thank you.
Thank you, Joe.
All right, we can, and I'm with you, Joe. We can move on. I wanted to speak to the same thing that you were speaking to. I mean, I don't live in a commercial area or ag area, but we do have people who park on our side of the street that are parking across the street, people who go into our driveway and come out of our driveway. It happens in a residential area. Also, I wanted to just do one speak. I don't want to go down. I think that it's useless for us to go down a path of trying to micromanage how they lay this thing out, because they still have to go through all the requirements given by the county. So I don't know, as they told us what they were doing. So, as long as it falls under your A1 designation, or then so be it. I understand that some of the things can be considered commercial, but it's still the same thing. I don't have a problem, even if it were, I don't have a problem with that. So that's it. I'm
Thank
ready
you,
to vote.
Raquel. One quick question before we take a vote. So for the Plainfield Fire Protection District, they indicated that you're required to install a fire alarm system. Is that all part of the special use permit, or do we need to add that as a condition? It's page 20 in the staff report.
So Ms. Berkowitz, that'll probably come into play again, and I defer to staff. But
Yeah, I
when they
just
get,
wanna
when they
make
get a
sure.
building permit
Yeah.
for the improvements, staff normally says we need the fire department to weigh in.
Yeah, it will be a requirement at the building permit, as well as we have it as a condition as well, as they have to
Okay.
comply with the. Plainfield
Thank you,
Fire.
Kelly. So I make a motion that we approve.
Yep, second.
Previous relevant was.
All in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Okay, thank you. And so we've got, let's see, there are two. So for the first one, we just voted on map amendment from R2 to A1 for the two parcels. And the second is requesting a special use permit for rural events, V-24-205. And do I have a motion?
Motion to approve.
Second, Nyquist.
Previous roll, Berkowitz.
Second, Nyquist.
All in favor?
Thank you.
So, you're welcome.
Thank you.
Thank you for being here. Looks like a lovely project. So, thank you. Okay, so on to other business. Final plat approval for Leslie's Orchard Minor Subdivision, SUB 24 MIN 001, Bramstadt Living Trust, owner of record, Brian Hertz, PE engineer, and Robert Hugalet, attorney, PIN 20-21-11-400-001-0000, Will Township, County Board District 2, and I so move. Thank you. Is there any public comment on this case here today? And this was, let's see, Brian. Brian, is there anything you'd like to say about this case?
The county board approved the zoning change from agricultural to E1 earlier this year. It was in April. And this is a 2-lot division of property with existing home sites. So there'll be no new construction here, at least no new homes at the moment. All they're doing is dividing it up for family members. The applicant has complied with all the regulations of the subdivision ordinance, and the chief subdivision engineer recommends approval.
Okay, thank you. So I support the project.
Motion in a second. I'll ask for previous roll.
Second, Berkowitz. For approval?
Yeah, previous. Where are we at? Yes.
All in favor?
Aye.
Aye, thank you. Okay, number 2, historic landmark nomination property commonly known as the First Presbyterian Church, PIN number 03-1725-340-008-0000, located at 301 North Kankakee Street, Wilmington, Illinois. And Marguerite, this looks incredible to me. I love when we're preserving landmarks like this. And previous roll, Berkowitz.
I'll second that.
Okay, all in favor? Yes. Okay. Then next, we've got the solar status report. Marguerite and Brian.
Yeah, I mean, in terms of the solar status report, we have not received any new solar since last month. But we are starting to see solar projects where it's one property and they are requesting multiple projects. So the underlying zoning is just to usually approve the special use of the property itself, the land itself. But you are starting to see more like multiple projects per request. So just keep that in mind, that you're approving ultimately the special use for the land and not the project itself.
So when you say multiple projects, are they individual projects that could be owned by different companies?
They could, or it could be a single developer looking to propose 2 2-megawatt projects where they each would have their own interconnection, their own fence, their own maintenance plans, their own agricultural impact mitigation agreements. But again, they're cited on, say, a 40-acre parcel, and they can do a 20-acre development for solar, and then other portion of that property could be another 20 acre, 2 megawatt solar.
So why would they do that?
It's just how they're pursuing meeting the state requirements, participating in the community solar program. So the Illinois Shines.
Joe?
Since you brought that point to us, is in your professional opinion, is there any way to expedite this new process that may be coming forward? And would you be willing to remind the committee of exactly what we're voting on? Because, you know, everyone's time is very limited. And if we're going to go down this path of how to conduct business, you know, we'd like to streamline it.
Yeah, I mean, in the past, we've had a few instances when we first instituted solar. We actually have 2 different solar developments on the northern side of Goodnow on a single parcel. That was the first one. I think this county board heard a zoning case a couple months ago regarding 2 separate developments on 2 parcels, but it was the same developer looking to potentially do 2 different out in, I think it was Pentagon Properties was the applicant.
They weren't contiguous, were they?
They were, and that. The one on Goodnow, it's basically a northern solar development and a southern one. So when you look at it, you just see a lot of solar panels, but there's actually 2 separate projects on that site.
But I thought we actually approved those as 2 separate projects.
No,
No?
those both were approved as a single special use.
Okay. So, I spoke with Chair Ogala prior to the meeting, you know, our committee, so we had a county board member who resigned from our committee, Destiny Ortiz. So that brings our committee down 1 member. In addition to that, today, Chair Pretzel is not present, and County Board Member Katie Dean Schlattman is not here because of a family emergency. So, and because of the length of time our meetings seem to run, I am going to recommend that in order to spend the time that we need to looking at the solar guidelines, the zoning notifications and procedures, and items 6 and 7, that we have a special meeting. So we're going to have to make that commitment, set a date and a time, and we'll, I guess, find a time that'll work for everyone, because I realize, Joe, your schedule is, you know, it's hard for you to just pick up. But do we have to, Chair Ogala?
Yeah, so I understand what you're asking for, and that makes sense for items 4, 5, 6, but I think 7 you could do.
Right, I was still going to ask Colin
Okay.
today.
You
to-
included it in your statement.
Yeah,
Okay.
I shouldn't have done that, so.
Okay.
Thanks. So do we need a motion for that, or? Oh, so we need to move it forward to next month. But, well, I actually, like I said, I think we need to set a special meeting, like a workshop, to spend some time on this, because our meetings just run way too long. So,
For today, Julie, aren't these, I think these are just discussion items. So I don't think we really have to do anything, because in the past, we've just skipped over the items.
right,
And
but we do need to work on them, so, yeah. Okay, so do we need to make? We'd like a special meeting. Yes, special meeting set. So we'll have to find a date and a time, and,
yeah, I think 4
yeah, so 4, 5, and 6. Yeah, 4, 5, and 6. Solar guidelines for the county, zoning notifications and procedures, and procedures of development of agricultural / former agricultural properties, drainage issues. Okay. All right. Did anyone want to comment on those right now? No. Okay. Next up is the update to the
Julie,
land.
I'm sorry.
Oh, I'm sorry, Mike.
You said 4, 5, and 6. I know I'm not on the committee, but I would almost suggest that number 3, the solar status report, be included in that special meeting.
Well, it's just a status update.
Okay.
So, and Marguerite did share, she said there's been surprisingly no new solar since last month. And wish we could have more months like that. And then one property, more properties are coming forward with multiple projects on one parcel.
And then
So
I have one question. Is this special meeting for just the committee or for the?
it's a
entire board?
committee meeting. And then, of course, that, then I guess would that go forward to our regular committee meeting and then to the full board, or how would that work? Mhm. Okay. Okay, but it doesn't need to come back to this committee meeting, a second committee meeting. Okay. Okay, awesome.
you.
You're welcome. Okay. I think we're all good with that. So, last item, update, land resource management plan.
Yes, we've
Hal?
got the scope of services sent over to purchasing, and they're reviewing it, and hopefully they'll have a quick turnaround. I am not, if 2 weeks is a quick turnaround, okay. But I think it's going to be a bit longer than that. But and then Nick has an update on another long-range plan project that we're working on.
Hello. For those who don't know, I'm Nicholas Hernandez, community planner. Recently, I've been updating there's a Fairmont neighborhood community plan that I've been working on updating. We've been doing community outreach events in the area. We had one on June 22nd, and now again, this coming up Saturday, we're going to have another event where basically we're trying to do community input sessions, surveys, and just trying to get general feedback from the community, because obviously it's important to have feedback from the community. And with that information, I'm going to take all of it and compile it and then update the neighborhood plan that hasn't been updated in about a decade or so. So just give me an update. It's this Saturday at the Fairmont Community Center from 10 a.m. to 2 p.m.
Nick, are you addressing any of the water issues? I don't know, is part of that in the Fairmont community or nearby?
So everything that, basically I'm just gathering input. So in the original plan, there were a bunch of different priorities that the community had made. And we're kind of just looking to see if we should reprioritize some of those issues or those things that were mentioned, if there's still a priority or not. Kind of just go from there to see what people are what the community is thinking about everything. But water, sewer, sidewalks, lighting, they're all kind of just, they've been all brought up. So I'm kind of just going to take everything that I've heard and then go from there and see what can physically be, or what can actually be done about things and update everything.
I appreciate that you're going into the community and doing that. That's wonderful. And I'm sure our residents need that opportunity to really touch base and, share the issues they have. Judy?
Yeah, I just had a question for Colin regarding the scope of services sent to purchasing. I thought we had gone out for an RFP or an RFQ before. We did not do that.
We did.
We did, and
We got nothing.
we got nothing.
We got nothing.
Oh, my gosh.
That's why we're redoing it.
All right, thank you for that.
Colin, is it possible we need to put the RFP out to some other sources, or where do you announce that?
Oh, there's several, we go through whatever purchasing has. They have their own network. And then we go to, we also give them the information to post it at the planning related organizations, the American Planning Association, Netizen. I'm trying to remember what the other one is, but yeah, we
Okay.
send it all out as broadly as possible.
Have you asked any of our surrounding counties how they've gotten, or if they've had the same issue?
No,
I'm just curious. Okay.
yeah, because some of them, I do know that some of them have their own planning consultants on retainer. We don't do that here.
All right, thank you. So next up, reports. For the chair, I don't have any reports at this time. Any comments from the committee members? And the director of the Will County Land Use Department. Anything from you? Nothing? And then any public comment? Any public comment? Sir, would you like to join us at the podium, please? Please state your names.
We are Bob and Jean Henna from the Chartwell Downs subdivision over in New Lenox. This is a wooded subdivision with about 1.5 acres for each house. There's 42 houses. And there is construction going on 2 properties on both sides of us and very little oversight. And it's very troubling. This is a 13,500 square foot, 10 bathroom house that has just had a seepage field installed without proper permits. And another house on the other side of us with a seepage field installed in a floodplain. Now we have a plat and a covenant of this subdivision filed in the Will County courts that states each residence is to have a cavitat system and only 1 residence per property. These people want to put 2 residents on this 1.5 acres. They have been in there with heavy equipment, moving land all over the place. There is a cliff in the back of the property that is 23 to 17 feet high that they created. Incredibly dangerous. And it's been that way for 2 years. And no fence around this. We've complained about no silk fence about the property because of all the destruction of our land next door that's going on. And nothing happens. And we want to know why.
Can I start?
Sure.
Okay.
Please.
We've been residents here for 29 years. Never had a problem. The neighborhood's been great. People have been great. When this development started, these are 1.5 acre lots, like my wife has said. The first thing they did, they went in and removed all the trees. Probably 500, 600 trees came down on that lot to build this hotel he's building. or warehouse. The people in the neighborhood call it the warehouse. It doesn't go with the neighborhood. It's the, you know, it's just, it's an industrial building, basically.
Oh, no
Well,
way.
when they first started putting in the foundation, I called Alex at Land Use and told him this foundation is 6 feet above our property. When Pat O'Donnell owned the property and started putting in the streets and sewage, we were the 11th house in the development. Throughout the whole development, he put storm sewers off of the street. You got storm sewers on the streets, on the curbs. He put them in the lowest spots on all the lots, so any drainage would come down and not puddle in anyone's yard. We never had a puddle. Our property drained perfectly from our lot across this lot to the next lot where the storm sewer was, and that exited out to Hickory Creek. No problem, no flooding. My sump pump never kicked on. This guy puts in this 6-foot-high foundation over our property, blocking the water going to the storm sewer. Every time it rains, my front yard gets flooded. You could put a kayak in my front yard. It's that deep. All this water has clay in it. He's completely ruined my yard. Okay? Clay, if you're going to put a pond in your backyard or around your place, you line it with clay because clay prevents water losing the ground. So our front yard is like that now. Well, the county finally forced him into putting a storm sewer in. So we've got a manhole now on his side of the property line, across the front of his property to the existing storm sewers that would take it to Hickory Creek. There was no need for that. When I called Alex in the very beginning, he said, don't worry about it. Let him finish his project. And when he's done, we'll write up violations. It's been almost 2.5 years we've been going on with this mess. We don't get any results. Silk fence, on, off. I mean, they cover things up. Nobody in the township or in the land use has come out. Finally, about 2 weeks ago, we got a hold of Frankie Pretzel. He was in the area. He came out. He couldn't believe his eyes to see what was going on here. He goes, he never knew. He never got word from the people that are issuing permits and stuff of what was happening. I think he was very embarrassed when he saw this. So I'm sad to see that he's not here today to, add to this, but he suggested get over to the board meetings and explain this. We're ruined already. Our property values have dropped. The guy is putting in a seepage field. He put it in, I should say. He got a permit for a seepage field. Like my wife said, the permit says 10-bedroom house. They also kind of lied about, they said it was 9,800 square foot. The engineer who put in the water fire protection system, they calculated at 13,500. So there's some funny numbers going on here. So they put this, he gets a permit for a seepage field, septic system, and he was going to put that in the flattest spot of his backyard, next to the swimming pool. Well, then he decides he's going to cut into this hill on the back and then put his tennis court up there. Well, he changed that. He's going to put that down where the seepage field was supposed to be, or leach field, and, and then put the seepage field on the hill. We have solid clay, 20, 30 feet deep. You don't put a seepage field or a leach field in clay. Clay is like a tombstone. You put piping up there to start feeding that thing, and all that's going to do is fill up. And because it's up on the hill, he's got it pitched towards our property. So when this thing overflows with that many bathrooms and whatever he's going to be going on in here, we're going to get the blunt of it. It's going to overflow. It's going to go onto my property. And the health department says, oh, who says it's going to overflow? Well, we've had numerous professional engineers out there, drainage people out there. They all said the same thing. You don't put a seepage fill on a hill in clay. Very simple.
Mr. Kenneth, can you
Heniff.
give us
It's Heniff, H-E-N-I-F-F.
Heniff? Thank you. H-E-N-F-I-L.
H-E-N-I-F-F.
Okay, can you give us your address?
1711 Pennington Court, New Lenox.
Thank you.
The property involved is 1801 Pennington to our east.
Also, there are other things with this property. The entire basement, no windows, no doors to the exterior. It's actually, and people are now talking that this is a boarding house. So we want to know what's going on, and we want to know from you people who approve this, what this, is this a single family residence, which is all that is allowed in our neighborhood? Or is this a boarding house?
Now he wants to build also a pool house, 1,850 square foot pool house. What is the minimum, what's the, a starter home, people today, 800, 1,100 feet, this is 1,850. It's got 3 bathrooms in it, a urinal in it, a kitchen in it. That's not a pool house, that's a residence. And I've seen no plans of where that sewage is going to go to. That system is not big enough for it. The only thing that's going to work is a cavitat system like we have and everybody else in our neighborhood, along with a chlorinator to do its job and dispose of it to the creek, like everybody else in our division, 42 homes.
Well, I appreciate your the issues you're dealing with, and thank you for taking the time to come here today to share that with us. This is not an agenda item, so we can't comment or discuss it, but we can certainly move forward from here and talk to staff about the situation, and then they have your contact information as well as so they are able to reach out to you as well. Did anybody on the board have it? Well, that's right. This is public comment. So we want to thank you for taking the time here today, and we have heard you, and we will definitely look into this.
Thank you.
You're welcome. Thank you. And Matt, you wanted to talk?
No, I think if the discussion ends right here on this topic, we're good.
Good. Okay. Thank you so much.
Thank you.
All right. So is there an executive session? No. All right. Thank you. So I move to adjourn this meeting.
Second.
All in favor? Aye. Thank you. Next meeting is scheduled for September 10th, 2024.